So here we have wild columbine. Wild columbine, or eastern columbine, is a hummingbird specialist. The other insects will visit it. It's built specifically for hummingbirds to really get to the nectar source. It's long and so forth, tubular, so the animal has to have a long beak or whatever to get into it, a long tongue. And when they do, they come in and they tap their heads up on here, and then have pollen on my, as you can see on my finger, also deposited on their heads. And so when they go to the next plant, they will also transfer that over. They come over, and again, they drop their head, drop it in there, and then they get more they pollinate the flower. Whenever you see flowers that are reddish or orange, long and tubular, that's really something that's a hummingbird specialist. As very few insects, except for some things like maybe spice bush swallowtails and so forth, don't really see the color red. So another name for this thing, the columbine, comes from the idea that supposedly this flower looks like there are doves sitting on there. The scientific name Aquilegia has to do with the actual seed pods, which look like an eagle's claws, and thus Aquilegia, as similar to Aguila in Spanish, means eagle. This, for a while, it's a great little garden plant. It can grow in very difficult places with very little tough soils and so forth. You can see here it's just growing straight out of these cinder blocks. But the problem is, though, it does not take competition well. So in these conditions where it doesn't get lots of competition, that's all good and dandy. It can grow in just about all sorts of different conditions. But once it's overtaken by plant competition, it really does not do well. So it reseeds itself very readily. But if plants are growing up against it, it tends to not be able to really compete as well as you'd think. But a wonderful, wonderful plant, wild columbine. One more thing about this. This, for a while, was actually promoted way back in the turn of the century as a possible national flower. Right now, the blue columbine, we don't have, all of our native ones are this color over here. But the blue columbine in Colorado is the Colorado state flower. But this was proposed as a national flower because of its beauty and so forth. And again, the Aguila, the idea that Aquilegia, that it looked like eagle's claws and so forth. But then it was discovered that in the Victorian age, under what's called the language of flowers, this particular flower, columbine, was a sign of cuckoldry. If you presented someone with that particular flower, it was almost an insult that they were cheating and so forth. And so that movement fell apart. But a beautiful, beautiful flower. Again, tubular. By the way, the non-native columbines, the ones that come from Europe and so forth, which are much short-spurred and so forth, they don't make good hummingbird fruit. If you think about it, there are no hummingbirds in Europe, so there's no reason for them to have evolved to look that way. But again, a wonderful, wonderful plant, wild columbine, a native which is in bloom right about now.